Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormbless. Today, we are diving into chapters 52 and 53 of The Way of Kings, beginning what is part 4 of the first book. We are finally getting into a bit of the Sanderlanche territory, which is really great. If you haven't read all of the Stormlight Archive, we would suggest that you come back once you've done that, because we're going to be talking full spoilers for all of the series, not just this book. And for everyone else that can stick around, welcome back. Christian, how you doing? How's Lost Metal? Talk to me.
Oh, the Lost Metal. Well, I've read a lot of things, mate. I finished... Yes, I'm up to the Lost Metal. I also this week read The Emperor's Soul, and I read Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. I think that's the title is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wordy title, but it does sound pretty interesting from what you were telling me about. And you're saying it's like a horror short story set in the cosmere.
Yeah, I finally decided to bust open Arcanum Unbounded because I just realized there's so much great cosmere stuff to learn in like 50 to 100 pages each, and it's very doable. And I was just basically waiting for my opportunity to buy the Lost Metal. And I thought I'll read the shorts in between.
Nice.
And man, before I get to Lost Metal, the writing in The Emperor's Soul is like just a cut above, don't you think?
Yeah, whenever he wants to, he can do the thing. He can really make some pretty sentences. Yeah.
He can. For me, like what made The Emperor's Soul work so well was it was like that perfect, it's in that perfect balance of like cosmere story where there's like a really good story about humanity and art and like legacies with just like a drop of cosmere. And it just felt great in that sense, a perfect balance where it's like, and then I go to the Lost Metal.
Yeah, I was going to say the polar opposite of this would be the Lost Metal.
The Lost Metal. And it's just like the cosmere just hits you like a train, which I like. Because I'm just like, ooh, more cosmere nuggets. But it's just not as smooth. It's nowhere near as smooth and like as classy. There's a certain elegance with the Emperor's Soul. And then Shadows for Silence was just like an awesome horror moment in the cosmere. And just really cool characters that he doesn't often write the POVs of. It's like a middle-aged woman in Keep, which was very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool, man. I think if any cosmere story is going to get you, it'll be that one. Anyway, and then Lost Metal, right? So everyone said like this is like the cosmere book. And I was kind of waiting for that moment to happen, because as I read the beginning, it was just like another Wax and Wane book setting up the new big bad and like recruit. There's like a bit of a time jump. Okay, what's everyone up to? There's some experimentation, mate, Navani style, which had me a little worried. And then part 2 starts, and it's just like, welcome to the bloody cosmere. Everyone's hanging out, and for me, that's more exciting because I'm kind of more into that than the average Era 2 story. But we'll see. So far, it's like very jarring. In tone, but for me it doesn't bother me because like that's what I want.
Yeah, that's what you were reading it for, essentially. Right?
I'm like, give me the cosmere nuggets. As much as I am enjoying aspects of it, it's not like the dialogue and the quippy banter that's keeping me. It's the puzzle pieces that will connect to the greater story. So it's good, but to be honest, this week the standout has been the short fiction of the cosmere.
Yeah, Emperor's Soul is a story that, you know, it kind of feels like, okay, you're going to take a little bit of time out of your schedule. You're going to sit down and you're kind of just going to read this thing, and it's going to hold your attention and you're going to experience it. And it definitely has a little bit more elevated prose than a lot of Sanderson's other stuff. And it's probably my favorite thing he's done, which is crazy to say for how much I love Stormlight and Words of Radiance. But I like what you said. It's like a little dash of the cosmere. It's a drip of the cosmere rather than the fire hose, which you know, I have read Lost Metal, but I've heard it's a bit of a fire hose.
Yeah, but I suppose if you're like 7 books into Mistborn, a fire hose is fine, you know.
Yeah, you're probably along for the ride at this point.
It just doesn't work as well because it's like Alloy of Law was just meant to be a little moment, like a
Mhm.
standalone. Hey, check it out, Mistborn's advancing, and then it grew into something bigger, and then from that it grew into like fully cosmere aware
Yeah.
thing. So it's like good in its own little ways, but it doesn't form a nice cohesive whole. It's a bit of a jumbled up mess with
Mhm.
cool stuff in there, which I now get why he wants to write Era 3 in its entirety before
I
releasing
was about
anything.
to bring this up.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is something I was actually not aware of. This happened in a conversation with one of my friends who's reading Way of Kings for the first time, and he was talking about. So he actually read Era 2, and he
Oh.
just thought Lost Metal was crazy. But I don't think he disliked it. He was more just like, whoa. But he was saying that Era 3 is definitely going to be more along the lines of like writing the whole thing almost like an Abercrombie approach, which he's done both of his trilogies in this way, rather than, I don't want to say figuring out as you go, because he's a meticulous planner, but you know what I'm saying, like that disjointed, keeping the tone consistent throughout. I think that you'll see a big improvement most likely with Era 3.
Yeah, I think he has like the plan for the Cosmere done, but yeah, you can tell Era 2 was like it grew in the writing. And I
Yeah.
was watching a video actually with Murphy and Sando when he was
Mm-hmm.
ranking, he was tier ranking like the difficulty of each book that he wrote. And just the stories he told about Era 2 were very telling of like how much of a struggle it was. Like he got through most of book 2 and then he was fumbling the ending. So then he wrote all of book 3 and then wrote the ending of book 2. Like, it's like all over the shop, the
Mm-hmm.
the writing process, where so far as I can tell, he's been pretty like, I'll just write this book. And there's challenges about that book, but it's not like he wrote Rhythm of War and then went back to Oathbringer. It's been very
Right.
meticulous. So it just feels like a little clunky in that sense, but nothing outright bad. It's just not Stormlight, mate. It's just
Yeah, I
not
mean,
Stormlight.
we've always said the Stormlight is our motivator to go out and read these extra works because we love Stormlight.
Yeah,
And then the things that could possibly make this even better is something that we're at least open to the idea of. So I'll be probably trying to Lantris with you again at some point, and I think I'll probably try to start Era 2. Well, not start Era 2, continue Era 2 with Shadows of Self. Sooner rather than later. Having a little bit of a beach trip coming up, so maybe I will
ooh.
take that with me, and that will be like the only book I bring. Therefore, I have to read it, uh, and maybe I can find some of that goodness that you said that you found with it as well. So, I don't know. It's wild to me to hear that you're reading so much, because you're someone who likes to kind of take his time, comb through it, pull out the details, connect some
Yeah,
things together. But you're kind of on a mad dash right now.
I am. I hesitate to say it, but I am, because every time I say something or commit to something on, on a public forum, it fails immediately. But I'm trying to do the whole Cosmere before book 5 because I just feel like I have a responsibility. I must know all the things.
So what do you have left? You have White Sand. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I'm like, to find a copy of White Sand is like impossible. At least volume 1 is impossible, but there's an omnibus coming out in a few months, so I'll get that. I got White Sand, I got Elantris,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've got I'm halfway through Yumi and Sunlit Man, so I got to finish those. I got to do Tress, and I think that's it.
All
Maybe
right.
there's like one or two more in Arcanum Unbounded, Six of the Dusk, and then I'm done. Then I'm
I'm
up to
I'm
date.
gonna put a little restrictor plate on this thing. Okay.
Okay.
You cannot burn yourself out on Sanderson before Stormlight 5. I need you fresh,
I know.
ready to go.
That's the problem because I also want to reread Stormlight for Stormlight 5.
Oh, dude.
But I
Nah.
don't. The thing is, I know it so well, but I don't know it in the sense that I know the Way of Kings now as we're reading it.
Yeah, it's a different experience when you really methodically
Yeah.
read something.
No, I
Yeah.
am getting the burnout will happen at some point. It's already. I was reading the Lost Metal, and I was like, I need a quick dash of Abercrombie. before my next set.
Yeah.
I just need some
Get your uppers, your downers, so you get
Yeah.
just right. You can vibe for very long if you can figure out the equation.
Yeah, man. I got the better part of a year. So I think I'll do it. And
if you don't get to everything, it's not a big deal. It's not going to be the end of the world, because we're going to be rereading these suckers anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest thing is Elantris. I think that'll be the biggest hurdle, because
it's long.
For what it's bad that I look at it like this, but I look at like, what will I get from this to enhance Stormlight? That's the sad truth. I look at a book and I think, how much value will I get? And Elantris, I feel like I'll get a bit, but with the length of it, it's not a comparable trade-off. Whereas I read
cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, like I read The Emperor's Soul. I'm like, this is great value, and it's a great story on its own. And look, Mistborn, it sounds like I'm being very critical of it, and maybe I am. It seems like when I spoke to Patrick about it, he's like, yeah, your take is pretty much the common take of like, there's some cringy banter, and it's like some clunky stuff, but like the cosmic stuff's cool and the world is cool. And yeah, that's true. The quippy stuff, I just hope that Stormlight 5 isn't just people bantering the whole time. And don't think I'm talking about Wayne, guys, because Wayne has actually grown into my favorite character of Era 2.
Yeah, that's the biggest development out of this whole thing is Christian gets on the call and says, listen, Wayne's the best character in Mistborn Era 2. I said, what? Yeah. What'd you say? Because after book 1, I was not a huge fan. But, I'm always open for character growth. This is something I've said about Lift multiple times. I said, I don't really like reading about Lift, but I think Lift's a good character. And I also think that Lift has a lot of opportunity to become a phenomenal character. And that's the characters that we love the most are generally the ones who surprise us. And some of our favorite people in our lives are the people who surprise us. It's like whenever you get a gift from someone that you thought was a complete, jerk. Like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, happy birthday. You're like, well, what? Thank you. My God. I mean, so much. The surprises are some of the magic to reading fiction in a lot of ways, and maybe in our lives as well. So I think that there's a chance Wayne could grow on me in Era 2. There's a chance.
Yeah. And it's not a complete turnaround. Sometimes I'm like, oh God, that's a line that was published. But I see what he's going for, and I really like it. I really like the character work with him. And speaking of character work and reviews and analysis of Sanderson, for some reason today, I was like, what did Jimmy think of The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance and Oathbringer way back when? I went to your channel and I watched your reviews with the cosmere mustache, mate.
Oh, that was a dark time in my timeline, man. It was the height of the pandemic, and I didn't shave, and I was seeing if I could grow a mustache like my dad, and it turns out I cannot. And yeah, I grew the cosmere mustache, and I believe I was saying I'm going to grow the cosmere mustache and I won't shave it until I've read all the cosmere. But then I decided Stormlight was plenty, and I shaved it off after that because I didn't want to get a divorce. My wife was not a fan.
Yeah, it was jarring. I was like, oh my God.
I looked hideous. I had a man bun and a mustache.
It was a bold look. You look like you were ready to like throw down. You had that warrior look.
I don't know if it was a warrior look. I think it's a look that gets you on some lists. It was not a good look.
Regardless of the look, though, I was surprised. I'm like, wow, he's really stuck to his guns. Pretty much, like you said, maybe The Way of Kings, when you're a bit, you're in the hype. You're like, ooh, I was wrong about Sanderson.
I was thrilled after The Way of Kings.
Yeah. But like you still mentioned the Flamesbrand thing straight away. And I mean, everything else, you stay true to your word. And even in Oathbringer and Rhythm of War, you mentioned all the downs, but you still enjoyed it. Like you have the balanced take. And then if you guys want to see the origin story of Christian Kremling and Jimmy Stormblessed, go to the comments of the Fantasy Network's Rhythm of War review. It's our first interaction of all time. And I was like, damn, this is crazy to see this moment. And
dude,
we're both so chuffed to like talk to each other. You're like, man, I've watched your videos and your lore. I'm like, yeah, it's such a good review.
We were just broing out in the comment section.
Out.
I mean,
beginnings.
You were instrumental in getting me excited about Stormlight Archive, because remember, I read Mistborn first, and I I didn't have the time everyone else seemed to be having, and I was a little worried. I was like, dang it, I'm gonna, I want to like everything this dude writes because he writes so much and he does so much for his fans. I just want to like his stories. Yeah. So I was a little nervous, but then seeing you kind of pitch Stormlight and then watching your videos explaining a lot of the lore, I mean, it just felt, in a lot of ways, it felt like watching Alt Shift X back with the Song of Ice and Fire, David Lightbringer, or any of the old heads, that dove into that series. And it was just, it was cool because I think I looked up to you on YouTube too, because you were growing very fast at the time, but also I just thought your videos were tremendous. I mean, they were so much better than editing wise, right? And the approach to the storytelling of a YouTube video, you were so far ahead of everyone and still are, that it was awesome. I was like, oh my God, he liked my review. That's sick. Like, you were the Cosmere guy in my head. I was like, that's awesome.
Oh, damn. Thanks, man. Like, back when I made videos, right? What a time that was.
The GOAT.
Oh, back before I, just spoke into a microphone nonsense.
I mean, you really care about the presentation, and with book, the cool thing about YouTube is it can be whatever you want it to be, right? You can upload and you can talk into a camera. I mean, there are people with millions of subs that barely do any editing and they're on defocusing webcams like Mudahar or whoever. But then there's people who like care about the presentation. And I think you always had a really good vision of what you wanted to do with it. And you took a lot of care with the stories because you love the stories. You weren't reading 1,000 books a year. You were reading the ones you loved, and you were getting the most out of them. And I love that because a lot of the book stuff on YouTube, and I don't mind it, but it's talking. It's what I do, really. Holding up the book next to your head and being like, I think it's a 3-star. I just the characters weren't that interesting. I'm being stupid, but like, and I love those videos. Yeah. But for have someone come in and say, hey, look at what we can do when we have some good fan art, when we have some good editing thrown on there. You can take these books and you can really make them live. And for me, I have a hard time imagining what things look like. So you bringing out art I'd never seen, throwing some effects on it, it really starts to get the gears turning. So that's why I was such a huge fan of your stuff. I was like, we need more of this.
I agree. It's what we need more of. And but don't spread the word too much because I'll get outclassed very quickly. No,
I doubt that.
But like my big one, I mean, in terms of those, I wanted to be like the Alt Shift X / Caption in Words of that series, because Caption in Words, Jay's videos on Stormlight helped me a bunch.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not hard to see that my first video ever is basically me trying to be his video introducing Stormlight. It's like a copy paste. I tried my best. But I've since grown from that. But Caption in Words, legendary channel with great editing and stuff too. So I wanted to do that, but I also have the deep lore theory stuff that Alt Shift X has with the Australian accent, which is essential to Alt Shift X.
It sure is. The accent just automatically puts you up like 3 stars. It's hard to mess up once you have that established.
Oh man, speaking of that, like, because I haven't been doing audio, I was watching reviews about Era 2 and everyone was saying the names differently, and it killed me because I feel like even Sanderson, I'm like, you're saying your lore wrong. It doesn't sound as good. Because when I read Stormlight, I was always like, Urithiru, the amazing tower. And then everyone's like, Urithiru. And I'm just like, that is so not as cool.
See, I think Urithiru sounds cooler.
Fair enough. Because, okay, hear me out on this one. Hear me out on this one, dude. There's a character in Mistborn Era 2 that I read as Marasi. And then I was watching a review that said Meracy.
Oh, no, yours is better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can talk to Murphy about that. Sorry, Murphy.
You can't trust Murph with anything. No. I'll quote George R. R. Martin about this. The best thing about lore is that it's not real and it's all made up.
There you go.
You can just do whatever you want with it.
True.
It's like malazan, right? Is malazan. It's almost like molasses. It's malazan. And that's how Erickson says it. But people get so bent out of shape. Like, it's malazan. It's this and that.
Malazan.
And then if you ask Erickson, he's like, I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
It's like, if they're reading it, I'm happy. Like, you can call it whatever you want. You can say however there is no official pronunciation. How about that? So it is funny though. Every time I watch Bookborn, who's a good friend of mine, and she comes up with some pronunciations that I'm just like, how did you get there? But people do this to me when I cover One Piece or any manga. They're like, can you read? Are you able to read?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not sure.
Oh, it happened to me as well, but it was within the book because it was in Mistborn Era 1. I read it as Sazed, and then they called him Saze as a nickname. I'm like, oh, they're not calling him Saz, they're calling him Saze. So his name is Sazed. And it made me very sad. But I've come around to that name. It works.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to hammer it out of your head.
Yeah.
You just got to reprogram yourself a bit, right?
Yeah. But hey, I don't know if there's any rough names in these chapters. But
nah, there's like what, Leaf or Leafy or whatever. Yeah, there's Leaf. No, there's not.
No, I think we're pretty good.
Toral. Oh, well, I don't know. Drehy.
I think that's just Dre with a because I think you know what, who knows, but do you want to jump into these chapters, mate?
Yeah, because I'm sure you got a bunch, because I know the first chapter is one that's been a very big inspiration for a lot of people and their theories and everything. So we'll jump into it here. We don't have any Sanderson updates, really. Kind of been quiet on that front for the most part. But we're going to jump into the first chapters of part 4, which is pretty incredible. Now, one thing I want to ask you, these epigraphs, are we back to death rattles?
Yes, we are back to death rattles, man. How good is that?
Yeah, I feel good when I read them out. And they're 2 juicy ones,
they're
I
big.
think. We can have a lot of fun with these ones. And Sanderson saved them for the opening of part 4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to punch you in the face with them once you go back and read it. So let's get to it. Chapter 52 is called A Highway to the Sun. And the epigraph is, I'm standing over the body of a brother. I'm weeping. Is that his blood or mine? What have we done? Now, before we go into the plot summary of this chapter, let's talk about this.
Let's talk about it.
What can the word brother really mean, right? It can mean family, but it can also mean someone that you've served with or someone that you've been with for a very long time. Weeping, is that his blood or mine? What have we done? What are you getting out of this? Because I have a feeling about this one.
Okay, well, firstly, thematically, it's just sick. All his death rattles are like some of his best lines, to be honest. And just a reminder about the death rattles, all of them so far, or at least a very high percentage of them, are future events. So I try to keep that in mind when analyzing them. Like you said, brother could be a few things, because like you could talk about Bridge 4. I would say that they're brothers. And then you start to think of how many characters have very important brothers in the series. Shallan, Kaladin, Adel, Renarin. Brothers are everywhere. And then, is that his blood or mine? What have we done? This sounds like there's been some sort of mistake. They've sacrificed someone.
Civil war, maybe, of some sort. That's what I'm thinking. It's people that were on the same side at one point. I think
it's also a chapter. This is just before a chapter where Moash and Kaladin have a kind of.
You got it. You got it. And there's more to suggest that these two are linked, by the way.
Okay.
I think this is Moash after he kills Kaladin.
Oh, no.
Or it could be the other way
around.
It could be the other way around.
Yeah.
But this could be Moash's moment of regret.
Well, the thing is, right, a lot of these death rattles have to do with Kaladin. There is one for each of his moments where he says an ideal. Each of his first, second, third, fourth ideals are all stated in the death rattles.
Wild.
Which makes me think the fifth ideal is here somewhere, right? I feel like I did have a theory for this at some point, but it's losing me now. There's also the angle that Adolin dies or something.
Renarin and
Adolin.
Adolin.
Renarin and Adolin. That could be, because they're featured heavily in this chapter.
They are. Yeah. That's true. Yes. This is fascinating. I mean, this is clearly a moment of regret, of reflection of something that's happened that is awful, right? I think there could be a chance that maybe this is somebody that has summoned something horrible, maybe a true desolation, and is seeing the impact of what's happened and all the war that's broken out, and they're saying, what have we done? Why did we release this thing? That was another idea I had. But I think maybe it's more about infighting or a civil war, or, you know, some sort of combat. I think Kaladin and Moash are I think Kaladin and Moash is more likely than Adolin and Renarin, in my opinion.
That's true. But how about this? Let's get crazier, right?
Okay.
So Sando has said the ending of Book 10, the entire series, is within the first 2 Stormlight books. And my mind went to Death Rattles, right? So who will be a lot older in the back half? Perhaps Kaladin's brother, Oridon.
So I'm going to be honest. The fact that he said the first 2 makes me feel like there's two points here.
Okay.
Makes me feel like it's in book 2, not book 1, because you would just say 1 book.
Okay, true.
He might be trying to give us a little bit of a red herring.
Okay.
Also, there's a chance that it's a combination of 2 things found in the first 2 books.
True. So it's not just, maybe I'm hyper focusing on the Death Rattles.
Well, I think it might be a Death Rattle plus a scene.
I see.
Or plus something else, right? Who's going to be older is Renarin. And we talked a lot recently about how we think that Renarin's going to come into central focus in the second half of the series.
I would love there. It sounds bad, but I'd love there to be one colon standing by the end. You know, who's it going to be? And my mind is on Renarin. If it's going to go that way, it's got to be Renarin.
I think it's got to be Renarin. Yeah. I'm standing over the body of a brother. Also, like, is this an internal thought or is this dialogue? Right? I'm standing over the body of a brother. I'm weeping
because like there's what the Kaladin. The Kaladin, what am I trying to say? Ideal moments where he's saying he's ideal. They're written in first person too. Like I jump across the chasm, friends behind, friends like whatever. It's like written.
Yeah,
like
so it's internal.
Yeah. Also, like let's say it's your brother, wouldn't you say my brother, not a brother?
Yeah, that's what makes me think that it's not family.
Yeah. So
this could be when Kaladin kills Moash.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. This chapter emblem. What is that?
Well, this is like it's in all of Dalinar's, and I think Adolin's chapters too. I think it's the colon symbols, I think, but then like it's also been theorized about the next death rattle, the tower and the crown and all that.
I was just about to say we're going to go ahead and talk about chapter 53, Dunny's epigraph. I'm just going to pull it in now.
Let's do them both now, like a whole death rattle section.
The death rattle for chapter 53 is he must pick it up, the fallen title, the tower, the crown, and the spear. And a spear is the emblem of this chapter 53, but in the previous chapter, one that we're going to be talking about first, that's a tower and a crown on the emblem. So we're talking about all 3, right? So he must pick it up, the fallen title. So what has fallen? Honor has fallen.
Oh, yes.
The tower, the crown, and the spear. He must pick up the fallen title, the tower, the crown, and the spear.
You could take this so many ways, right?
This is wild.
There's also like the battle of the tower at the end of this book, but I think that's a little loose. For me, this feels like shard stuff. There's 2 ways you could do it. There's one way where you could think it's just about honor, or if we want to go further, right, for the whole unite them thing, the tower, the crown, and the spear could represent cultivation, honor, and odium. And Dalinar will unite them all and become one new thing, which seems less likely. What do you think? I see the gears turning over there.
So if they all 3 could become one and unite them, and that is singular to a title. So you take the tower, the crown, and the spear, and you take them all and put them into one title, which is a fallen title.
Like, right? Yeah. Look, I feel like the fallen title right now stands to be honor because he's fallen. But who knows what's going to happen in the future?
That's also kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And I don't know like which one I would associate with each shard. Like maybe the spear is honor, the crown maybe odium, the tower
That sounds like an odium.
but tower doesn't really match that well with cultivation. So
is there a chance that at the end of book 5 or at some point all 3 are gone?
I feel like Tower of Engine is going to be set up as a bit of a big bad for the whole cosmere. That's my impression. So I don't think, but maybe like really far ahead. I got to remind myself this is 10 books. For some reason, I just feel like it's more honor based.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So what is this? The Tower, the Crown, and the Spear. So let's just say Adolin, Dalinar, and Kaladin. Like, what does that mean?
Because I like looking at what you've said about the chapter symbols, because I really do. Because he said, I've said this a million times, but he said these are previews of scenes, some of them at least, and the Kaladin one seems the most obvious version of that. And that's where the spear kind of comes into things. And then you do look at the Dalinar one, and you think Tower and Crown. It's like right there. So what's going on?
And also, it looks like it's blocking out something.
Dalinar's one?
Yeah, isn't that a sun?
I mean, they've all got that circular shape, but you are right. It's like they're blocking out, the Night of Sorrows, perhaps. All scratchy and dark. Let me see if I can, because that is mentioned too for the, I don't know if it's the first time, but I think it is mentioned for the first time in this chapter. I'm going to look at his chapter symbol up close. Let's see.
Yeah, zoom in.
Let's zoom and enhance.
Get the 8K monitor.
Because it's been a while since I actually looked into Dalinar's chapter symbol, if it meant anything, because a lot of them, like, I've been obsessed over Yasna and Shallan's one and Kaladin's one for some time, but the Dalinar ones, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that would be.
Do you want me to read what Sando said?
Yes.
Okay. So, someone asked about if there's Easter eggs to look back. So it says, so they're not things there's like, someone asked, are there clues and Easter eggs in Roshar and the Cosmere that have not been discovered yet? This is in 2020. And he goes, yeah. Sanderson says, yeah, but they're not ones you should be able to discover. They'll just be things that you'll be able to look back at. We embed some things here and there in the art, like the last clap that was foreshadowed in the margins of one of the art pieces in the first book with someone catching a shard blade. We talked about that, I think. And he goes, for instance, a lot of the little circles for characters at the start of the stories represent things that will happen much later in the series, but most of them are intentionally zoomed in of what the shot would be, so you can't tell right now, because these are not things that you're supposed to be able to figure out. Most things I intend for you to figure out, you did. Some that I didn't intend you to figure out, you did. And then at the end he says, but there is no way you can figure out what they are. And I remember using this as my
motivation.
I put like the audio of that in one of my videos. It's like, bring it on, mate.
Well, let's say this. I guess we won't get too lost in it, but it is interesting that the emblems are back to back. We have Thing About a Brothers. We see a scene with brothers, and then we also see Moash and Kaladin in these 2 chapters, but also the fact that there's a tower, a crown, and a spear, and those are here available for us.
Yeah, look, I'd love to come back to it. I don't want to get too bogged down because I'm just going to start reading articles and theories, and it's not a podcast anymore. Probably should have looked into Dalinar's thing a little further, but yes. I think it's going to have a good connection with the chapter symbols. I think you're right.
Yeah, we would love also if you want to send us a Spanreed if you have any ideas about this and the like what that death rattle really could mean overall. We'd love to hear it. But we'll go ahead and recap chapter 52, A Highway to the Sun. We've read the death rattle, but the plot summary goes as this. And the first scene is from Adolin's POV here. To start part 4, it says Dalinar discusses his decision to abdicate with Adolin, who is not ready to become High Prince. A high storm approaches, and Adolin and Renarin tie Dalinar down in preparation for the coming vision. Then we move into the vision through Dalinar's POV. Dalinar enters the vision as a guard atop Feverstone Keep. Casting about for the reason he's been sent to this time and place, he is the first to notice the approaching army. The army is identified as Radiance, specifically the orders of the Stoneward and the Windrunners, or Stoneward, sorry, and Windrunners. Dalinar senses that something is wrong and runs out of the Keep's gate to approach the Radiance. He is not far away when the first one sticks his shard blade into the ground and then shucks all the pieces of his shard blade, turns around, and walks away without a word. The other 200 or so Radiants do the same. Dalinar feels a tremendous sense of loss and tragedy at their abandonment, and he tries to get one of them to tell him why they are doing this. One of them stops beside him, and in a voice of the one who has addressed Dalinar in his previous vision, tells him they were the first, they were also the last. Dalinar identifies the event he's just witnessed as a day of recreance. Returning to himself, Dalinar and Adolin resume their discussion. Adolin wishes for Dalinar to simply recognize that the visions aren't true, ignore them, and continue leading the princedom. Dalinar refuses, saying that if he is to lead, he must trust his conscience and judgment, and therefore the visions. Otherwise, he would second-guess himself at every decision and lead the house to ruin. Renarin interjects with a suggestion that it may be possible to verify whether Dalinar's visions are true or not. Dalinar asks Navani to describe it for him and then communicate with Yasna to ask her if she can prove or disprove any of the details. This chapter is full of stuff. I have really just one overall tinfoily thing I'll throw out at some point during this, but I'm gonna kind of let you take the wheel here because I know this is one of your favorites.
This is one of my favorites because it's pretty much the only time we get, I believe it's the only time we ever get a look at the Recreance. An actual, somewhat reliable point of view chapter in it. And it's probably one of the most significant points in Roshar's history. We see this leads to the trial of Adolin in Shadesmar, where they're like, hey, the Recreance is your fault, puny human. Defend yourself. And it's in that book where we get the realization from Maya, Adolin's Deadeye Spren Shardblade. And she's like, hey, we chose to do this too, because the whole thing is like, you killed all the Spren. How dare, like, humanity killed us. Like, this is a big through line throughout the series. Spren are very hesitant about humans because of this event where, you know, they betrayed their oaths and all the Spren died. But Maya's like, hey, we chose to do this too. We just flipped the whole event on its head. That's why when Dalinar's here and the glow of the shard blades goes out, he hears screams. It's all the Spren dying and losing their bond and stuff. So the reason they did this, supposedly, as we understand it now, is because at some point they found out that Surge Binding and all these powers destroyed Ashen, their original planet. And they're like, oh, damn, we don't want to do that again. This power's too terrible. Let's give all this stuff up. That's the conventional thought at the moment in the series. Supposedly, like, that had happened before. They'd learned about Ashen. And then Honor was like, no, it's okay. Like, we made mistakes, but we'll do it right this time. But then Honor started going a bit mad. And he's like, yes, it's going to happen again. We're all going to die. Dawn shards, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, all right, you know what? Let's stop this whole superpower thing. And it's created this whole thing where it's basically created society as we know it in Roshar, where like all these people grabbed shard blades. They wanted to keep it to themselves. And they created the male arts being two-handed and the women arts being one-handed, hence the safe hand and the writing and so on. Cool. And light eyes and all of this stuff is basically originated from this moment. So yeah, pretty amazing.
So what do we think? So what's the driving force to make Honor go mad?
I think it's in his battle with Odium, he was kind of losing it a bit. Like, okay. Yeah.
Desperation, possibly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So two tinfoil things for you.
Let's go.
What if this isn't a day of recreance?
Okay. All right. Take it further. Sell it. Sell it to me, mate.
So these visions are in the past, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if they're not?
Oh, this I love.
What if the Stormfather visions are what is to come?
Now that's interesting. Now that would be a huge twist. I don't know how viable it is, but that would be
I
a
don't think it's
really.
viable at all.
But it would be. Imagine though, that would be such a good twist. Like the
But
vision.
I just had these. I'm sure there's stuff that keeps it from being. But I was just like, wow, what if we're seeing something at the end of book 5 and seeing everyone lay down?
Time is a circle. Well, the thing is, like, yeah, I think I would refute that with the bronze armor and the leather and all that.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking maybe like a regression,
Okay.
maybe. Maybe so. This wouldn't be book 5, right? It would be a regression future, like maybe after book 5. But either way, I'm wrong, and it's fine. But I thought it'd be
Still
fun
to think about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still like it.
So here's another thing. Did we see how the Day of Recreance got its title?
No, I think there is.
Did Dalinar name it back then, and then someone heard him say it, and then that's how it became referenced? You see what I'm saying?
That would be sick.
I'm pretty sure there's no time and stuff in Stormlight. I'm pretty sure Sanderson has said that. So like again,
I'm pretty sure these are like I said, like VR recordings with
I'm shooting blanks.
AI interaction. But you know what? I love that. I love that it would be him naming it and then it's a time loop. I want that to be the case.
Well, it's a paradox too, because then like how would it have been named? You know what I mean? That's the whole thing where like time isn't like a straight forward and back, but rather something you can interact with over top of, yada yada yada. But I don't think Sanderson's going to do that. So
I don't think so, but I love it anyway. Also, because the other thing that made me think about that is like you see Stonewoods here, and we've pretty much not really seen Stonewoods so far in the Radiant Circle today. But we do see that they're all very advanced Radiants because their armor is glowing, which means they've said the fourth ideal, just like we saw Kaladin do, how your Spren forms armor and all that fun stuff. So that's fun. And then the interesting thing is he's realizing the incongruence with the amount of shard blades available in today's world, which hints at all these lost ones, which is fun.
Yes, very fun.
And all the dead eyes. It hits different when you know they're Spren. In a lesser series that would be added later without any thought, but you can tell he knew from the beginning with the screams and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And this is where like I made a video about this chapter. It's probably it's my most recent like actual Stormlight video, and it's a theory I've begun, but I never fully slam dunked it. But the chapter title being Highway to the Sun, I mean, the obvious answer is right in the chapter. It says the expansive straight wall stretched above him like a highway to the sun itself. But to me, what stood out was that the description of the clouds to Shadesmar have almost always been described as a highway or a road to the sun. So I was like, oof. And I was trying to create a bond between the clouds and Shadesmar to the Recreance, like the clouds and the sun are somehow a Shadesmar cognitive realm representation of the Recreance or something of that effect. But I couldn't really get it.
Because I mean that the Recreance and putting down the blades and the dead eyes and all this stuff, I mean, this is a big deal for Shadesmar, right? So I think there's a lot of purpose behind that imagery. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it is, or maybe it's not, but it's something to think about. If you want to see me go further into it, just check out that video. Yeah, it's cool just seeing a good look of the Radiants too, like their crazy glowing eyes, and seeing that they look a bit different from Shinovar and all this stuff and all these different backgrounds. It's just really cool how he weaves you into the past. And then I'm guessing, I don't know how this works, right? But like, let's just say you pick up Shardblade, you become a Light Eyes. If you have children, are they now Light Eyes too?
I think.
So,
but I don't know that for a fact.
Neither, but so I just thought of this as like these people picking up the blades are like the basis for light-eyed families in the current day. This is where they all started.
Yeah, that's an interesting lineage. And then also I believe this would probably be maybe the beginning of the war of collecting these things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it becomes less of a global thing where like we're all in it together as humans here, to Jakaved.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? To the different city states or whatever they are.
True.
So almost to a more segregated type society. Now the Shins are over here. We don't really mess with the Shins. So it's almost like the world became a little bit smaller
Mm.
after this as well. They weren't all in it together, and that is maybe a kind of playing into the unite them, right? Jacquevet. We hear in this chapter that is it Jacquevet? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Ja or Ya. Because
Yakovet. Yeah, it's Ya. Okay.
yeah,
So Yakovet, we talk about that, and then help me,
Alethkar.
Kolinar, Alethkar. Thank you.
Yeah,
We talk about the a war between them and what that would mean, and
yeah,
unite them. It's not just the Radiants, but it's everyone.
yeah,
It's all these places that have kind of taken up their own pride in need for these resources. So this chapter kind of shows you how we got to where we got to
yeah.
where we're on the Shattered Plains fighting over things,
Oh
and then
man,
border disputes and everything else.
yeah. Like I said, it sets up not only that, but like the entire society
Yeah.
of and Spren society too.
Yeah, dude.
Because like they all die or like become dead eyes, and the only ones that were living were like babies, so they don't really remember humans, and that's why they're scared of them, and that's why like their whole society is how it is today because of this moment, because it's all forgotten over years and years of time, and they didn't know that this friend were consenting, which this is what stood out to me, because I'm like, he's trying to foreshadow this in this line, but I don't know why Dalinar would feel this in the vision. It says, when the light of the shard blades goes, it says, a terrible feeling struck him, a sense of immense tragedy, of pain and betrayal. Stopping where he stood, he gasped, hand to his chest. What was happening? What was that dreadful feeling, that screaming he swore he could almost hear? So like, Sando's trying to tell us about the shard blades and the Spren and all that, but why is Dalinar like gasping and holding his chest? Why is it affecting him so much? That feels a bit odd.
Yeah, well, maybe it is the vision and the experience being kind of played with a little bit by Stormfather.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah.
Like he's kind of flipping switches behind the scenes and enhancing it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see that. Maybe, yeah, for that purpose in itself, to like tell you about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And
I'll take that.
or maybe they have more of an effect on this thing. And is Stormfather's a Spren, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to give him the nudge. Like,
Yeah. Like, see what you did?
yeah.
See how bad this was? And then we have Honor's little message. He always loves a little message at the end. He does. And they were the first, and they were also the last. So cryptic. Like, just come on, get to the point, mate. Anyway,
But we start time.
Yeah. What I love is when he says, the night of sorrows will come, and the true desolation, the Everstorm. Okay. So, like, I'm telling you, book 5 is Night of Sorrows territory, whatever that is. And the true desolation, like you and I have said, we're not convinced. We want to see the true desolation. We don't believe this is the real deal so far.
Oh, yeah, not a chance, dude.
Give us the real stuff, dude. Like, at least from the preview chapters I've read of Stormlight 5, things are going down. So I think we could see it there. I mean, we do see the Everstorm. There's no question. And then read the book, unite them. I forgot the read the book part.
Which is the Way of Kings.
Are we accepting that?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Read the book, unite them. Okay. All right.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like that's the book that's been mentioned at this point, and it's the one he's been reading. Now, there's a whole thing about whether Dalinar is interpreting these right, or they recordings for somebody else, and he's listening to them. Is this really the real Stormfather? So, I mean, if you go down those rabbit holes, yes, we have to question the book immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're taking this at face value, which might be foolish, I think it's Way of Kings. I think.
Okay. Well, it is the last thing he says. If I'm looking at it now, it's the last thing that Stormfall, Honor, or whatever says. Read the book, unite them.
Well, what book would it be if it wasn't Way of Kings?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because he's left. It's like, when did he leave these messages, and when was the Way of Kings written? It just feels like an odd. I mean, sure, maybe I think I'm grasping at straws. Let's just say it's the Way of Kings.
No, you might not be. I mean, this is the end. It's all going to come together when they finally read a real textbook about what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, it's an awesome moment. Love
It
a good
is.
vision. Maybe my favorite vision, to be honest.
It's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. And Feverstone Keep not being found. And I think eventually they realize it's near where the Pure Lake is. So obviously
Ooh,
there's been some big event there or something. The Pure Lake's also
something
a place where you can hop planets and
sus.
stuff. Very sus.
Yeah, it's us. Maybe Feverstone Keep is on a different planet now.
And also, who were they fighting? I feel like that's not really directly talked about.
It is not. And could it be that they were killing some of the town folk? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, it's interesting that also this is around the same time as we get this death rattle of like my brother. I've been weeping. Like, did the Radiants do something horrendous at this point? Like,
All we get is this, why are the Radiants coming here? They should be fighting the devils on the front lines. Like that's all we get about the enemy. So is that just the fused Parshendi Hodium creatures?
I always feel like there's going to be a third.
Yeah. They're fighting the Kremlings on the front lines.
Oh my god! They do stick their sharp blades into rock.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's actually a little odd the way it's written. I thought, and it probably because I'm always looking for rock stuff, but I'm like, why did they put them in the rocks?
Because to me, like if you drop a shard blade into a rock, it just falls to the center of the earth. It's like dropping a lightsaber.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
So like, how do they stand up? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, did we just find a?
Oh, did we break the magic? No, he'd be like the hilt. Oh,
yeah,
there'll be
there'd be
something. There'll be something.
Someone will email us.
Okay, yeah. So there's all those questions. I found maybe he's just trying to hide from the audience who they're fighting to save it as a slam dunk later. Or it's some third enemy that we
Would be
know,
wild, dude.
which would be fun.
Some cosmere visitors or something that
That'd
we don't hear about.
Cool. Yes,
A bunch of chondras.
Oh, the devils. Yeah, I guess we should look out for the use of the word devil.
Ooh, a little control F over the books.
Yeah, actually, I might do that. It might. Yeah.
That might be worth it. Yeah,
I feel like devils aren't often mentioned in this.
Yeah, it's not a word that I associate with Stormlight really at all.
No, I associate it with Attack on Titan. That's what I think of. But hey, then we get. I mean, this chapter's so big, it's so dense.
Yeah,
and then like Dalinar casually mentions to the boys that he's like used the old magic.
Yeah, that's the thing they're talking about. Like, is there issues with the old magic? This is what it has to be, and the old magic's not real. And he's like, I can tell you for a fact that it is. He's playing with it. He has all the cards. He's like, boys, let me tell you something. It's real.
Yeah, your mother. I mean, shush. They're like, what? It's like, haven't you? Well, I suppose it's like, yeah, he's not going to talk about his wife.
Yeah.
But Renarin seems all across it. Renarin's he knows about it.
Yeah, Renarin comes across as very open-minded, but also maybe slightly informed. Like, it's just Renarin sticks out in this chapter quite a bit, actually. Adolin's almost like a backseat to me in this chapter. Because, like, on face value, what this is about is abdication, right? Yeah. Adolin having to take the princedom. And that is what the focus is on the surface. But if you look deeper, I think that Renarin actually, there's more about Renarin in this than Adolin.
I agree. And I suppose like he's playing with like he's putting Renarin's fits against Dalinar and you start to wonder if this is some family thing. But I'm pretty sure Renarin's just got epilepsy or
I think
condition. So. But regardless, Renarin is he's a little more clued in. I mean, way more clued in than Adolin, who's just like, Dad, stop being lame. You know?
You're embarrassing me.
Yeah.
In front of all my girlfriends.
Whereas Renarin's like, the old magic, father. It must be.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I read books. So, and then like Dalinar's like, no, I'm not telling you kids. Specifics aren't important. And then enter Navani, who was hilarious. This interaction between her and Dalinar just cracked me up. She really pushes him to the edge, and we get the seeds of their romance planted here. Mm-hmm. But you see the relation to Yasna, so matter of fact, so scientific.
Yeah, you can see the lineage.
yeah, very, very clearly. But what I found interesting was like Dalinar starts questioning. He's like, this unite them wasn't just a command from the visions; it had been Gavilar's dream. And I just like, where'd Gavilar get his dream from?
Mm-hmm. That's what we keep wondering about.
That's a question. Is Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, which we'll explore more in the next book. I think there's a bit more of a Dalinar Gavilar crossover than we are led to believe. So yeah, I mean that's the chapter.
Yeah,
Was
really
there
good.
anything else?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, I'll be curious to see what we think after book 5, if this is one of the things that we come back to immediately, because I think it could be.
Yeah, the Dalinar visions will be extremely telling.
Yes,
yeah,
especially if he's dead at the end of book 5, so or if he's taken up the title.
Ooh, I think he'll be dead as we know him.
Yeah, I think that's almost assured.
Yeah, as dead as Dunny, some might say.
Dead as Dunny. I like it. Chapter 53. We've already read the death rattle, so we'll move right into it. This is a Kaladin chapter. Dunny is trampled on a bridge run. Kaladin blames himself for not being able to save him. To cope with Dunny's loss, Kaladin decides to save the wounded bridgemen from the other bridges. The bridgemen hesitate at first because helping other bridges drains their resources. Kaladin lectures them on honor, and the hypocritical light eyes, and they start helping him ashamed. While working, Teft reminds Kaladin to keep his pouch of spheres infused and on his persons at all times, and comments on the good luck Bridge 4 had, sustaining 0 casualties during all their approaches. 4 of the wounded bridgemen survive. So this is, I mean, come on, Kaladin. My God, how dense are you? Like, you got to figure it out at this point, right?
Wake up. I found I don't know if my ebook has some sort of wrong text here, but when they're talking about how they're going to bring the bodies back, Kaladin's like, yeah, they just lashed to the top of the bridge, but he said lashed, like using Stormlight, but then a minute later he's like clueless about it. Do you have that line too?
I'd have to pick up my book, and I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, is lash just a word that people use in real life? Because I'm so deep into this, I don't know.
Lashed, having eyelashes of a specific kind. I don't think so.
Hey, that's a Thalen thing.
All right, lashed, very drunk. No.
Okay.
Flick, switch, swish, wave, wag, whip, tie up.
Okay, tie up. Okay, so it is. Okay, it's a term. Yeah, I was like, why is he talking about lash?
There's a lot of synonyms and different uses for it. So,
all right, fair enough. Okay, well then, yeah, Kaladin's just really dumb. Because Teft's like, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, this might be one of those times where, like, I'm like, could we have skipped this step? You know what I'm saying? Like, could we have maybe here given Kaladin maybe the heads up that what he's doing? But at the same time, it's a signpost to show that Kaladin's abilities are growing, because now he's able to save all of Bridge 4.
Yeah, and like the arrows are like, and you're seeing him here, all the arrows are flying around him. And Teft is like, Teft's like the reader, nudging more spheres to Cal.
Yeah, Teft is our stand-in at this point, because we're like, hey, bro, maybe them spheres have something to do with what's going on here.
To be fair to Kaladin, yeah, straight up. To be fair to Cal, it's like, your brain's not going to clue into magical powers, because it's like,
totally and I know he's trying to survive. Like, it's obviously, it's explainable.
But for
like,
the reader, you're like, oh, come on, dude. Your mana bar is like peaking. And then we get the Moash moment where he's like, you know what? You're all right, Cal. I'm going to betray you. But right now, you're cool.
Yeah, this is them coming back together, or not even really back together, but really kind of linking up truly for the first time. And who knows? Maybe that epigraph, we see the beginning and the end of their arc.
Maybe. I like that. Yeah. I mean, I got pretty excited seeing like Moash and Cal have this moment. I was like, I kind of missed like the bad boy team up before it all goes bad. I'm like, give me that. Let's go get Elhokar.
It's always a shame thinking back of what could have been,
Yeah. Oh, it's just so. I mean, I'm curious to see how I feel about it when I reread, but it kind of makes me sad that Moash is just like the emo bad boy of Stormlight now. You
I
know?
feel like he's just this like self-righteous force. I like Moash. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he's doing terrible. Well, he did get rid of Teft, thank God. No, I'm just kidding. But I like Moash as an antagonist. You know, he has some purpose, a reason why he feels the way he does, and how far is vengeance? How far does it go until it spoils you as well? Right?
Yeah.
He's a cool character
Yeah.
to read about.
Another few cool things is like the Parshendi is straight up just flabbergasted at Kaladin. There's like that line. He's like, their demonic faces bore looks of stupefaction. So they just like, this dude's a radiant. What the heck?
Yeah,
So
we've seen this before.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, they're clued into it.
And demonic faces does kind of lead to the devil's reference that we mentioned a little bit earlier.
True.
So maybe same likeness. Maybe that's enough to kind of say that is exactly what we were seeing in that flashback.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
And then we see Shen just like doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
He's not worried about it. I'm keen for Shen to wake up and see what happens there. I'm just trying to think of what else. So yeah, like he said, the only true man. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, this line, if you want to take it further, when Kaladin's like trying to convince them to save people, he goes, "Well, I've only known one man in my life who was a true man of honor. He was a surgeon who would help anyone, even those who hated him. A man of honor. So if he's a man of honor, you might be the son of Tanavast." Some would say.
Yeah, I think that's a wink. That's an elbow in the side, little wink from Sando here.
He's a real man of honor.
He thought he was cooking with that one.
Yeah, yeah. But to be fair, like Kaladin and Lirin are like honorable to a fault. Like they are ridiculously honorable. Like
yeah, we've seen this in fantasy before,
like
right?
Worse than Ned Stark. Yeah,
yeah.
So yeah.
Simple chapter after you read the Dalinar one, right? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and then he heals, and then you're like, "Ooh, off we go."
I continue to say on the reread, man, you know, the Kaladin chapters have stuff in them, but it's always the other crew that I'm so excited to dive into because I remember so much of Kaladin's arc.
Yeah, I feel like his is detracted on a slow reread, but going binging through Kaladin. Through the Way of Kings is like an emotional trip.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like for what we're doing, give me some Dalinar and Shallan. You know,
yeah, we're looking for the lore, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're after.
But speaking of, you said we got a good Spanreed this week.
Yes, we do. So our Spanreed, after our chapters, we try to get at least one Spanreed in an episode, and this one's awesome and it's timely, and I think that it's a great time to read it. So it's from our listener Corey B. Says a Spanreed, said, "Hey, sorry, I almost choked on my own spit there." Said, "Hey guys, I only recently started catching up on y'all's podcast, so somebody else may have already brought this up or a similar theory, but we know from later books that Cultivation has directly involved herself in 3 of our characters' trips to visit the Night Watcher. After Cultivation's interference, Taravangian has become the new vessel of Odium. Dalinar has bonded Honor's cognitive shadow and possibly the single most powerful Honor Sprint on the planet. And if I remember correctly, it is stated this is something he wouldn't have been able to do without his curse from Cultivation. And Lift has bonded Wendell, a Cultivation Sprint, and gained a handful of seemingly unexplained additional powers. I believe that Cultivation has been, cultivating these 3 characters to replace Ray's, Tanavast, and herself for some time.
Oh,
I
love this.
Yes, it's good. I believe that in Stormlight 5, Dalinar will unite the Shards of Honor and take up the Shard himself. And that somewhere over the course of Stormlight 6 through 10, Lift will take up the Shard of Cultivation, perhaps after she, Cultivation, is killed by Teravodium. I don't look too much into fan theory, so I'm not sure if anything out there has been pointed out how these 3 characters, with this seemingly rare experience, meeting Cultivation herself in common, all have ties to 3 shards on Roshar. Hopefully this is a new idea to you guys and may prove to be fertile ground for some wild speculation on your part. So Corey, thank you.
Oh man,
I love this. And this is, we just talked about the tower right? The Tower of the Shield, or the Tower of the Crown, and the Spear. We were talking about, well, what if these things are going? Well, this quite
I love this,
honestly
dude.
might be a tie-in to what we were talking about.
This is one of the most tight theories I've heard.
It
And
it makes sense, and also there's room to grow with this theory.
yeah, because for me, right, I've pretty much accepted in my mind. I'm kind of getting the sense that a lot of this cosmere tale is about people taking up the shards. That's what I kind of feel like. Who are they going to be the shard holders by the end of this thing? And Cultivation's been a bit of a sleeper in the Stormlight Archive. Everything she's done has been in the background, and if you're just reading it, if you're just breezing through it, it's almost like Cultivation's a non-entity in this story.
Yeah.
So to look at what she has done and which characters we know she's really impacted, you start to wonder. And I think, because I've gone down this rabbit hole a little bit before, I think there is confirmation somewhere that Cultivation was planning for Taravodium to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's confirmed somewhere. If I did a bit of digging, that might be confirmed by Brandon, that she wanted him to kill Reyes. The Dalinar and Lift thing is interesting, because when you get this thing that Lift can use Lifelight instead of Stormlight, that's like one of the biggest things going on right now. And then what did he say about Dalinar? What was the little thing she did with him?
Let me backtrack here. It says Dalinar has bonded Honor's cognitive shadow and possibly the single most powerful Honor sprint on the planet. And if I'm remembering correctly, it stated that it's something he would not have been able to do without his curse from Cultivation.
That's interesting. I would love to see the evidence of that, because if that's true, now we're really cooking.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're cooking with gas at this point, man. I mean, this is some intense stuff. And also just the name Cultivation, right?
Yeah.
To grow, to sow, to kind of bring things up and to bring them along. Cultivation, getting the replacements for these things, it almost kind of goes with the name.
Yeah, she's planting the seeds, and playing the long game.
Yeah.
Because we get I'm almost certain we get Dalinar's, in his flashbacks, we get his visit to the Night Watcher. So we
do.
I should maybe look into that. This feels like video potential. And Lift's one, I'm sure we'll get in her respective book for sure. So
Book 10.
I wonder if the Lifelight thing is because, I'm sure it is actually because of her visit to the Night Watcher.
Almost assuredly, yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it because the shards are meddling.
I mean, also we get the Night Watcher talk in this chapter. We literally talk about it, and this is the same thing where we talk about a fallen title of the Tower, the Crown, and the Spear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's all coming together.
Oof,
this feels good. This was really good.
Yeah, there's some stuff here. We have pieces.
Yeah, guys, you guys are awesome with your Spanreeds.
Yeah, people are dedicated.
I mean, Jimmy, he rocks up for the Stormlight once a week. I'm in the trenches here, man. I got theories flying at me left, right, and center. And I'm telling you, the best ones are coming through our inbox. Seriously,
truly,
we're getting the good stuff. Go to Reddit. It's the 15th baby champion theory with me smiling. But we got the good stuff here on Lost in Roshar for sure.
That's right. We're crowdsourcing some amazing theories that will some of these are going to be enhanced or disproven or add more questions to with book 5 that comes out at the end of this year. So like this is the time where we need to be putting our noggins together and trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, it is the time, because I feel like me talking about a theory 2 years after book 5, people are going to be like, oh, who cares?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that 8 to 10 year gap is going to be rough, because I've been waiting 12 years or so for, wins, or the fandom has. I've been waiting quite that long because I read Dance a little after. But that's where we started getting to food theories and food placement. It's going to get dark, guys. Like, it's going to get rough.
That's my territory, dude. I love those series. The thing is,
buckle up.
Because I still listen to your Bend the Knee podcast with your Song of Ice and Fire theories, and I still get fired up. I still get excited, man. I'm like, when's wins coming?
we find new stuff all the time over there. I'm sure we're going to do in Stormlight with these rereads as well. Like, if you really want to try to get in tune with what an author is doing, I actually believe reading about a chapter to 2 a week is a really good pace, because you start to see why they put characters close to each other in the chapter orders. And then even with, Sanderson takes an extra step further with these epigraphs, and then you got the chapter symbols and everything else. You can really start to see where they were in their mindset. Because remember, they wrote that thing a chapter at a time.
Yeah.
They didn't write the whole book in one sitting. They were very much in mind of what came before, right after, and then tying it all together and then going through the editing process. And I think that this is the way to do it if you want to try to get deeper thematic meaning out of books, but also to craft theories with a series that's right for it, like Stormlight. I mean, it's just the way to go. And that's why we're the best.
You know what? That's so well said. I have nothing else to add, mate. We are the goated Stormlight people.
Yeah, we are the goat.
But I get the same sense when I read the Cosmere now. I'm like, I kind of see what you're going for, Sando. This overarching.
Yeah.
Don't know if I like it, but
but we'll see. I'm just saying, people, get your theories in now, learn about the theories now, because the only time maybe in the next 8 to 10 years we're going to have answers is at the end of this year, and then we're going to have a long time without it. So, like, now's your time. You're going to get a kickback in December, and then you're going to have to wait a long time. So
a long time. And then we're going to be looking at like Mistborn Era 3. So like in the 80s, when they have like, Pac-Man in Scadrial, what does that mean for Kaladin? It's going to be rough. I don't know if I like the whole backtrack thing. I don't know if I like that we're going to get future stuff and then we have to look back to Stormlight.
I'm not a fan of that.
I think,
but I feel like I may say so much of it that I try not to. But that's one of my problems with Sunlit Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's thrown a lot of people off Sunlit Man. At first, I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, whoa, like, tell me everything. This is cool. But then on the come down, I'm a bit like, oh, so I know a bit about post Stormlight 10, maybe. Like,
I don't like that. I don't want it. I don't want it personally. But hey, whatever.
That's what we're doing. We're entering unknown territory. Sander's trying to
keep an open mind.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, guys, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we dive into chapter 54 and 55.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. It helps us out a lot. And then if you have any theories or thoughts about the chapters that we're reading here on Lost in Roshar, please Spanreed us at lostinroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep that safe hand covered.